Joe, every year the Oscars does an in memoriam segment as part of their show, and every year they frickin' blow it because they forget to include some big name or another, and everyone's like, well, how could you forget so-and-so? But I tell you what, this year they really blew it, Joe. They really blew it big time. They really stepped in it this year.
We were pissed.
The
whole time during the in memoriam, we were yelling a name. Where?
Because they forgot.
Never came.
They forgot to include the great Tony Todd.
Come on.
How do you forget Tony Todd?
It's like, you know what? They didn't forget. This is an attack. You know, they didn't forget. They did this on purpose. He was right on the line for them, and they said, Todd can go to the website in memoriam. Don't worry about him. He was only in the greatest horror movie of the 90s.
Thank you. Candyman himself, Tony Todd, who sadly passed away last November, on my birthday, actually, which is also the day that, last year, my birthday, Tony Todd died and Donald Trump became president on the same day. So it was not a great day. I didn't run around telling everyone it was my birthday because I didn't feel like the mood was right. But this isn't about me. This is about the great Tony Todd, because I thought we could step in where the Oscars failed and just quickly give Tony Todd the in memoriam that he deserved, that the Oscars should have given him. Because
finally,
this guy not only played Candyman, he also played the recurring character William Bloodworth in the Final Destination franchise, the one who the funeral home owner who's like in touch with death and understands what's going on and comes in and provides the exposition while all these kids' heads are blown up and they're getting beheaded by lumber and stuff.
Candyman, obviously a classic. Final Destination, with every creeping year, Brett, aging like a fine wine.
Yep.
Horror heads love a Final Destination.
And we got Final Destination 3 as our Miler of the Week up here in tribute. You might say Tony Todd wasn't in that one. Yes, he was, as a voice at the theme park. He was in Final Destination 3. Because what I love about this guy, I love when the face of a horror franchise sticks with the franchise throughout all of its installments and goes to the cons and embraces the horror lifestyle, embraces that world. And Tony Todd famously great with fans, generous with his time, stuck with Candyman. He's in every single Candyman movie. He's in most of the Final Destinations. He's in Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead remake. This guy is essential to not only horror but to the world of cinema. And did you know, Joe, one of my favorite trivia facts, one of my favorite movie trivia facts of all time, on the set of the original Candyman, they used for the scene where his mouth is full of bees. I have a picture of it here if you're watching us on video on YouTube. His mouth is full of bees. They used real bees for this, Joe. They used real bees. They used over 20,000 real bees for this scene. And Tony Todd got stung 27 times. 27 times during the filming. Has anyone ever been stung 27 times in their life by bees?
Not on purpose, for money.
No, this guy got stung 27 times by bees in one day filming Candyman.
Whoa.
But props to Tony Todd. Actually, props to his lawyer, because before they did this scene, Tony Todd's lawyer negotiated a line in his contract where he would get paid $1,000 per bee sting.
Wow.
So that's an extra $27K.
Nice.
$27K in Tony Todd's pocket, well deserved for putting his body and his life on the line for one of the great horror movies of all time.
Probably flicking bees.
I think he was nudging them a little bit
flicking bees
to get that number up.
Yeah.
I would be prodding those bees.
I'd be just like yelling at them, swatting at them,
getting them mad, riling them up.
No.
Let's get that number as high as possible.
We don't know. We don't know what his opinion was, but he definitely made $27K.
$27K for his troubles. R.I.P. Tony Todd, one of the greats. Your work will live on forever. Horror fans will always remember you, even if the Oscars immediately forgot you. But you know what? Fuck the Oscars. Long live Tony Todd. Joe, are you ready for this week's show?
Oh, you know it, Brett.
Then Carson, roll that fanfare.
Welcome to Movies, Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with my partner in crime, Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! Joe, we are coming to you live from the San Fernando Valley, and this week on Movies, Baby, oh boy, Bong is back. We're reviewing Bong Joon-ho's new movie, Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson. W.S. Anderson. Paul W.S. Anderson is also back. The B-movie auteur of Resident Evil and Event Horizon and the original Mortal Kombat has a new movie called In the Lost Lands with his wife and frequent collaborator Mila Jovovich and also Dave Bautista. We'll let you know how that was. Plus, we've got your movie news. We've got your box office updates. And in the second half of the show, for Patreon subscribers only, this is big. We are ranking Bong. We are going to rank Bong Joon-ho's entire filmography, worst to best. And worst, of course, is a relative term here because this guy, in rewatching all his movies, he doesn't miss. Does not have a bad movie. It's going to be very hard to distinguish.
He has a best movie. He has a worst movie.
That's right.
Man doesn't have a bad movie.
So we're calling it worst to best. Really, it's like good to masterpiece is what we're ranking. That's going to be in the second half of the show on Patreon only. Sign up at patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You can start with a 7-day free trial, see where it goes from there. But sign up for the Patreon. Come on. You don't want to miss these Bong rankings. You don't want to miss all the fun we have over there in the second half of the show every week. All right, Joe, what do you say? Should we get this started?
Let's do it.
This week on Movies Baby, we have a new #1 movie at the box office, Warner Brothers' Mickey 17. But why isn't the House of Barbie that's Warner Brothers celebrating? We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll dig into Warner Brothers' so-called auteur strategy for 2025, which involves giving boatloads of money to some of our finest filmmakers. It's a win for audiences, but is it a win for WB as well? We'll talk about that. But first, let's take a look at the numbers. Carson, show me the money. And by money, I of course mean the weekend box office returns, baby.
Bang.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
There they are. There they are. Well, Joe.
We got a new #1, Brett.
We got a new #1. Mickey 17 brought in $19.1 million domestically, dethroning Marvel's Captain America Brave New World for the top spot. But unfortunately, that $19.1 million domestically is just 16% of its reported $118 million production budget. Now, it did bring in $53 million total when you count the international markets, but that is still a long way to go to profit. It needs to bring in about $275 million, at least $275 million total in gross revenue to see profit when you count in the marketing spend and everything. That is going to be a long hill to climb for Mickey 17 with this soft $19 million domestic opening. So, Joe, I think unfortunately we have to consider Mickey 17 a flop. Everyone saw it coming, and now it's happened. What happened here? Why did Mickey 17 flop? What went wrong here?
Mickey 17 flopped domestically because Bong Joon-ho is from South Korea. And I think that's one of the core issues with the movie Mickey 17 is though it's for an American audience and Bong is a really smart, sharp guy, he's still not quite from here. So some of the nuances are a little broad, in my opinion, with the movie. But I think that also translates over to his stateside appeal financially. In South Korea, Bong Joon-ho's the opposite of a slouch. He's like the highest grossing South Korean filmmaker ever. All of his movies do tremendously well. Parasite, I think, is the #1 all-time movie in the South Korean box office. And Parasite won Best Picture here, and it was a huge international wave. But what us cinephiles kind of need to get through our head, I suppose, is that doesn't mean Bong is, you know, Tom Cruise. He alone can't open a movie. Putting from the director of Parasite above it, you can make $20 million at the box office. I just think it's like a name recognition thing. I think we know who Bong is, and we love Bong, and Parasite is a huge deal for us. But these are different times, and movie theaters aren't the main cultural epicenter, and Bong's influence isn't felt through American culture as pervasively as other directors or auteurs. I'm afraid it's as simple as that. And additionally, Mr. Pattinson is also not to blame, but he's the other guy who's the name. He is famous here. He is Batman. He is a movie star. He is beautiful and young, and he can't open the movie either. It's a big, beautiful sci-fi romp comedy thing. People act like everything that's not IP is hard to market. Everything that's not Superman, how are we ever going to sell it? It's like, I don't know, big, broad, beautiful sci-fi comedy seems like relatively straightforward. I don't think, Zaslav famously is not really into marketing 150%.
David Zaslav, head of Warner Brothers Discovery. Yep.
So, I think that they probably gave it a nice little run. They bumped this thing. They kind of killed it culturally.
Yeah, well,
it's a Trump send-up, but Trump just got elected again. They just pushed and pushed and pushed this thing.
Let's dig into that real quick because, everything you're saying is correct. In order to open a Bong Joon-ho movie with Robert Pattinson as big as they needed to open this, they would have had to nail the pre-production, the marketing strategy. Every step of it would have had to been so precise and nailed, and they really didn't do that. They didn't do themselves any favors by originally this was slated to come out last year, but they pushed it because it was coinciding with the writers' strike, the various strikes, and they just didn't think the timing was right to get the right marketing push behind it. So this thing was delayed over a year. The trailers were never quite there, the marketing was never quite there. They didn't.
Warner Brothers insists and their marketing suggests that they didn't get this movie. They didn't get it. All of the words for why they bumped it is that tonally it was confusing to them. And I watched the movie. I'm not saying it's a masterpiece at all, but I certainly is clear. It's a sci-fi comedy romp on an epic scale with Batman as the main picture. It just doesn't seem like an impossibility. Though it's not based on IP, people are familiar with the tropes of sci-fi. Mickey 17 has a lot of Alien in it. It's got a lot of The Thing in it. It's got a lot of Star Wars, the one with the snow in it. The new one. The one with Ryan Johnson's. So, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it's an impossible thing to push on American audiences. I think WB kicked it to death, put it in March, said, I don't get Bong, whatever. Maybe it'll just magically hit. And it didn't magically hit. That doesn't exist.
And so this thing must have gotten greenlit in the wake of Parasite, but then they kind of because they botched the rollout, the post-production of it, the release date of it, they could no longer capitalize on the sort of Parasite publicity or Parasite wave, because they clearly didn't make any effort. They didn't market this as a Bong Joon-ho movie. They didn't market this as a from the director of Parasite movie. They mainly led with Robert Pattinson, which I think is smart in the marketing, but they didn't clearly communicate what this movie was, what like you said, what the genre was, what the kind of mood of it was. They couldn't find that one clear viral marketing sort of through line or narrative for this movie, and so it just never gained any sort of momentum. Everyone in my theater was well attended and everyone liked it, but this is we're in LA, it's all of the sort of diehard movie lovers, so but that's kind of what happens. You had to seek this movie out, find out what it was about. You had to do the work as an audience member to kind of get excited about this movie. Warner Brothers wasn't doing a whole lot of work to get people excited about it.
It's a movie where Robert Pattinson prints himself out over and over again. The memes write themselves, and it just didn't happen. And Warner Brothers did a bad job.
And apparently Robert Pattinson based his accent, because he always does his crazy accents. He based his accent in the movie on Steve-O. Maybe that could have been something. I don't know.
Yeah, just a fun video, anything.
You know what social media is right? That could have been a fun thing that kind of circulated. But I found out about that in the middle of the weekend while the movie was already out. I don't know. They just didn't really figure out how to market or present this movie, and as a result, it bombed. It might have bombed anyway with that budget. But it certainly did without a real coherent, strong marketing effort behind it. And when you look at Warner Brothers' slate for this year, I want to talk about what this means for Warner Brothers this year, because Warner Brothers has two things going on. And we're getting 2 years removed from Barbie, 2 years removed from the last sort of colossal cultural moment coming out of Warner Brothers. They did have Dune 2 last year, but Barbie was mega otherworldly. So we're now 2 years out from that. They've got James Gunn's Superman in the summer is obviously the big one that everything is riding on. That is kind of the rebrand of the DC extended universe, and they have a lot banking on that. But then they also have all of these expensive auteur projects, starting with Mickey 17. They also have Ryan Coogler's Sinners, which cost $90 million. They have Paul Thomas Anderson's One Battle After Another, which they're saying costs $140, but other people are saying it could be as expensive as $200 now with kind of reshoots and various things. And then they have Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride at $80 million. And it's not just big budgets, it's also director-friendly contracts, because part of the deal for Ryan Coogler's Sinners which is this big hip historical horror movie, is that ownership of the movie will revert to Coogler after 25 years. So they are giving auteurs lots of money. They are giving them friendly contracts. So my question is, what's going on here? What's the strategy? And before I get your take, Joe, I want to give just a tiny bit of context, because this is also the first year at Warner Brothers that the new regime of their film division, led by Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy, are fully in charge of the slate since they took over back in the summer of 2022 after Warner Brothers and Discovery merged. Because up until this point, they could say, when a movie flopped, well, that wasn't our movie. That was the previous regime's movie. So they had they inherited a lot of the weak, DC movies before the James Gunn regime. So in 2023, they had, Shazam, Fury of the Gods, The Flash, Aquaman, The Lost Kingdom. They also had Barbie and Wonka, which I'm sure they were happy to take credit for. But they were able in the past 2 years to kind of step away from responsibility because, Joker, Folie à Deux, that wasn't our project. We didn't have anything to do with that. But now this year, they are fully in charge. This is their signature slate. They are on the clock. So my question is, Joe, let's focus on this auteur-driven slate. What are they doing here with all these expensive auteur projects? What is the vision? What is the purpose? And what would success look like to them?
I think that this is great for film goers. Obviously, we want these wonderful directors to have big budgets. But do you know what I think that Warner Brothers is doing right now, Brett, with their auteur strategy? They're treading water. They are buying time. Next year, we will have Dune 3. We will have another Godzilla movie. We will have Superman 2. We will get all the IP back from Warner Brothers. That being said, I do like the couple of projects that they have in the pipeline. Here's the glass half full take. Warner Brothers needs a differentiator. They're in serious debt. Christopher Nolan has left them. Netflix is eating theirs and everybody's lunch, and Warner Brothers got problems. They got problems well beyond movies, linear television, the collapse of basketball programming. Basically, Zaslav's entire tenure has been predicated on a private equity mindset. Is that what that?
I don't know. That sounds right.
Just stripping everything for parts and
Right.
managing the destruction. And honestly, his plan is getting them out of debt. That being said, blah, blah, blah.
Yes.
He brought in his new people to do movies, Michael and Pamela. And I love the slate, Brett. I love the PTA budget.
Us. It's great for us.
I love the bong.
We're not complaining. I'm just curious,
These are people. Think about the people. These are people that you're going to keep in your pipeline. All right, Mickey 17 didn't light the world on fire. I'd keep Bong Joon-ho around. The guy's making sci-fi originals at the drop of a hat. Okja's kind of a Mickey 17-esque thing too. Paul Thomas Anderson, he's pretty good at making movies.
He's pretty good at making movies.
Coogler, the collective they, Hollywood owes him 7 originals. The guy's just been crushing, making everybody fucking rich.
Cranking out Creeds
and Black Panthers. Just cranking.
Yeah.
And then they have another, do you remember the other?
Maggie Gyllenhaal's The Bride.
And then Gyllenhaal's The Bride. That's a Frankenstein movie. These aren't bad bets. The prices do seem really high to me, and just based on Warner Brothers' recent history of stinking at business,
yes,
this is giving me big time nerves. But I don't think this is Michael and Pamela lose their job territory. I think the plan is tread water, stress a differentiator, try to get some goodwill. We know we have to just burn time because next year we got 700 IP.
And you mentioned Christopher Nolan. I think there's a lot. I think Nolan's shadow is hanging over this a lot because I think Nolan used to be a Warner Brothers loyalist, do all his movies out of Warner Brothers, and then
Legendary's buildings were on and in the Warner Brothers lot.
That's right. And then famously, there was a big messy divorce there because Nolan didn't like their sort of streaming first strategies and not cutting down on theatrical releases, simultaneously releasing everything on Max. What Zaslav infamously called Operation Popcorn. Well, Operation Popcorn lost you Christopher Nolan, so I guess it was a Bay of Pigs level a disaster as far as operations.
But streaming's
go.
profitable, they say.
Sure, but you lost Christopher Nolan. You lost your big sort of auteur he's like auteur and tentpole together, which is what Warner Brothers wants. They still have Villeneuve and Dune, which is kind of in that model as well. But I think they're trying to restore the Nolan pipeline now and trying to restore them, return themselves to this position where they are thought of as a auteur-friendly studio, as a place where auteurs can come and make big budget
but make
movies.
event features.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You're right, because none of these are Peter Kuber's day.
Great point.
These are big old movies. So
These are big swings.
It's a good point by
big
you.
swings.
It's true.
And all of these movies, to be fair to Warner Brothers, were won in bidding wars. It wasn't like they were the only ones who had this idea. They beat out Sony and Universal for the PTA movie, for the Ryan Coogler movie. The Bride, Maggie Gyllenhaal's movie, was originally at Netflix for $100 million, and then went into turnaround because Netflix didn't want to shoot it in New York, where Maggie Gyllenhaal wanted to shoot it. And so Warner Brothers said, "We'll take that." So it's not like they're the only ones that wanted these movies. They fought hard for these movies, and now they're trying to give them the budgets the directors need to realize the visions of these movies. And I think they're hoping that they know that not every one of these movies is going to hit. I'm sure they're hoping that one of these movies hits. That one of these movies
they are
hits,
hoping that.
and then now who knows? Maybe Sinners hits, and then now they've got a real great relationship with Ryan Coogler moving forward. They give him a contract he likes. They give him the budget he wants. So I obviously this is great for movie lovers. I don't think it's maybe as risky for Warner Brothers as it looks at first glance. They're going to lose money, but sometimes you got to lose money in order to restore reputation or build new reputations to find your new Christopher Nolan. Maybe they're hoping that just one of these four directors becomes their new Christopher Nolan, and then they call it a day.
Yeah, keep hoping.
We'll see. Joe, I've got some movie news that I want to run by you and hear your response to, because Hollywood is buzzing with rumors about several big upcoming projects, from the new Mission Impossible movie to Greta Gerwig's Narnia series for Netflix to many other tentpoles in between. So, Joe, you're the Philly movie freak, as we all know.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to present you with some rumors,
Okay.
and I want you to I haven't run this by you
No.
yet. You're seeing it for the first time over on my script there. I want you to either give these rumors a freak yeah,
Okay.
meaning that you're excited, this is good news, you
Freak
like what
yeah.
you're hearing, freak yeah, or a freak off,
Oh no.
freak off, meaning you're bummed, this is bad news. Freak off, also famously the name of the Puff Daddy parties.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
But I thought that was good because it just cements it as like the bad option, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So
And you're sorry.
Yes.
And you're making light of that right
not
now.
at all.
No, you're not.
Not
Oh,
at
you're
all.
not.
No, I'm saying
Oh,
it's
you're not
bad,
making light
and
of
now
it.
we are using it as the name
Oh,
it's
for
our
the bad
basically
thing.
I don't want to do thumbs up, thumbs down because that's
No, you
that's
wanna do
somebody else's
Freak
thing.
on, honey.
No,
Or
it's
freak yeah.
freak yeah.
Freak yeah.
Or freak off.
Freak off. All right, I got
Freak
you.
off. You got it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 1. The new Mission Impossible movie.
Freak
Joe.
yeah!
Okay, hold on, but I haven't given
Oh,
you the
sorry.
rumor yet.
Oh,
Yeah, but
oh,
you're excited
sorry.
for the
Yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Okay, well,
yeah,
you might
yeah,
even be
yeah.
more excited then because Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is coming out May 23rd.
Freak yeah.
Could be. Hold on, let me get to
Oh,
the
sorry.
actual news item.
Oh, sorry.
It could be Tom Cruise's final Mission Impossible movie. We're not sure yet. It reportedly cost upwards of $400 million. There are a lot of expectations around this one. That's what people are
That's
saying.
insane.
It was just test screened in 2 different versions, and apparently both versions clock in at 3 hours, which would be the longest Mission Impossible yet. Dead Reckoning was 2 hours, 43 minutes. Joe, a 3-hour Mission Impossible movie, what say you?
Freak yeah.
All right.
Freak yeah. I mean, almost like if it's cost $400 million and you got more than 3 hours in the can, why don't you do us all a favor? Make that fucker 4. Next.
Joe, you are very excited for this team up between Trey Parker and Matt Stone from South Park and the Book of Mormon, etc., and Kendrick Lamar, our greatest living musical artist, hip hop artist.
Yeah.
You know, I'll let you debate. That's for somebody who does a music show to debate. But Kendrick Lamar and Trey Parker and Matt Stone are all teaming up for a movie. It's a big satirical comedy. We don't have a lot of details about it yet, but there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz. You are so excited that you picked this for your fantasy movie draft.
I did, yeah.
This is on your fantasy movie draft.
Yeah.
Well, we just found out this Paramount weirdly put up this like poster briefly on their website last week that has everyone buzzing because it kind of took the air out of the tires of this project a little bit. Because, Carson, if you can pull up that poster when you get a chance, The poster is very unremarkable, is
Right.
very bland.
Yes.
And it says a couple things. Number one, it says that the movie's name is Whitney Springs.
Okay.
Whitney Springs.
All right.
Number two, most importantly, it mentions a Paramount Plus film. A Paramount Plus film. Which implies that perhaps this is going straight to streaming on Paramount Plus and will not get a big theatrical release.
Yeah.
We do have Kendrick Lamar listed along with Chloe East and Celeste Octavia as part of the cast.
Love that.
So there's a couple different things going on here. We also found out separately that
my
it probably is
gosh.
going to have a July 11th release, a
Okay.
summer release.
Okay.
So, Joe, a couple things going on here. You might want to give a couple different responses. But what do you think to all of this barrage of sort of unverified news
I'm
about
betwixt
this
and
movie?
between, but I'm going to go freak off. Freak off. I want to see this in the movie theater. This movie's going to be awesome. Trey Parker, Matt Stone, and Kendrick Lamar all doing a musical about, race in America and slavery, and it's going to be really raunchy and funny and crazy and kooky. Like, yes. But I want to see it in the movie theater. South Park has had a tremendous run on Paramount Plus. They've had this weird deal post Comedy Central or whatever Comedy Central is now, where they're creating South Park episodes, but they're also making movie-length South Parks that are all kind of brilliant and hilarious at different degrees at Paramount Plus. Like, I like that for them, but this movie has Kendrick Lamar in it. It's not somebody else. Like, this is a real thing. It's not another South Park episode, and I'm sure it feels like one or sounds like one, and it's rude like one. But this stinks. I want to see it in the movie theater. Boo. Freak off.
I agree, Joe. My hope is that some sort of fail son over at Paramount who got a cushy mid-management job accidentally leaked this thing online before it was ready or substantiated.
Allison's kid.
And maybe yes, and maybe this is not this is not correct. Maybe this poster does not have all the correct information on it. We do not know. Paramount has not substantiated any of these rumors yet, but man, that poster does not fill me with optimism for this project either. I give it a freak off as well, if anybody cares. Let's talk about a couple casting rumors, Joe.
Okay.
Coming off his big Oscar win, Adrian Brody is rumored to have been added to Damien Chazelle's Evel Knievel film, which stars Leonardo DiCaprio. Adding Adrian Brody to the Evel Knievel film, what say you, freak?
Freak on. Freak yeah.
Freak yeah.
Freak
You
yeah.
had your own freak phrases.
Freak yeah. Adrian Brody's getting a lot of pushback. He threw gum at his wife. He talked for 6 minutes at the Oscars.
We also have really quickly. We did not mention last week in our Oscars special one of the craziest subplots of the Oscars, which is that Adrian Brody now has been in a relationship with Harvey Weinstein's ex. That was Harvey Weinstein's ex-wife, Georgina, formerly known as Georgina Chapman, that he threw gum at. And
threw gum at.
Harvey Weinstein's kids are the ones calling him Popsy.
Yes.
In that part of the speech.
So
everyone knows
Adrian
that
Brody,
now.
but the whole world's against him. He's the father of Weinstein's children. He talked for too long. His art was getting passed around Twitter this week. His art is abysmal because he's an actor. Guys, this is actor stuff. This is the good stuff. This is what we want. We need actors to be complete and totally delusional.
Shame on you for looking at
completely
photos
delusional.
of Adrian Brody's Art Basel show. Shame on you for looking at the. Would you think they were going to be good?
So Adrian Brody's art is like the Starbucks logo, but she's pointing like green finger guns at her own head.
Yes.
That's the kind of energy that actors
What
need.
if
and that's,
Banksy? What if Banksy was even worse? Is Adrian Brody answers the question?
Way worse. He has like a painting of guns, but they're like crying blood.
Yeah.
He's
It's like
really
McDonald's French fries, but they're like vape,
cigarettes.
Vape,
Yeah.
cigarettes.
It's not even like
No,
it's not even ahead of
current.
time.
It's not even
No,
current.
no.
They're just
It's
cigarettes.
just they're cigarettes for fries. It's just like a good old fashioned.
I like that one. I would buy that
freak,
one, Adrian.
yeah.
Send
so
me a quote.
put him in everything. He's gonna be good at
Oh,
acting.
this is a freak, yeah.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, great. Freak,
because
yeah.
because that's what we want.
Yes.
When actors are good at acting, usually they are unpalatable to you as a regular human being. We need them to be weird and extra. He's not hurting anybody recently. I don't know about ever. Freak, yeah.
I think he's just a weird
guy.
with some weird
I don't-
stuff, but
I don't know enough to speak
but
to
I don't
it,
think
but
there's
yeah.
anything. I don't remember anything terrible.
I have
about
no
him.
idea.
I'm sorry if we're missing something.
Sorry,
but,
I had no
but
idea.
also like let this guy be weird and
He's
sort of
he's
awful
weird
in,
and bad
in public. Like let
Love
it
that.
happen. These are movie stars.
Have you seen his
okay?
Instagram where he like walks down the street in New York and he's like, "We're gonna have a great day, everybody." every single day. Like, that's the psychotic energy we need.
We need this, okay? We need this. We can't have every celebrity just
Being
being this like
cool?
moral beacon
Ew.
for our lives. No, we need weird celebrities. We need celebrities who are bad
That's
but
why
not
he's
awful.
good at acting. It's because he has he lost the part of his brain that is about sort of shame or self-reflection, and that's why he's able to go there emotionally and be so bold and transparent.
And
with
now he's gonna be
emotion.
like Evil Knievel's like shady manager or something. I don't know what he's gonna be, but I'm just think of
Sign
the
me up.
possibilities.
Next.
Or his like rival, his Salieri. Come on,
I
the
love
possibilities are endless. I know nothing about Evil Knievel's actual life, so we can't do actual casting.
you've seen
here,
a movie
but you know
before.
what a
Yeah.
movie's like, right?
Yeah, get him a
All right.
Salieri.
Speaking of stunt casting, what about Charlie XCX being rumored as the White Witch in Greta Gerwig's Narnia series? Charlie XCX, pop girl of the moment, being essentially taking the Tilda Swinton role in Greta Gerwig's Narnia series for Netflix. What do you think?
Freak off. I'm out. And it's not because of Charlie XCX. Honestly, like, she's just a reminder to me why I'm out. It's like, Greta Gerwig's Narnia. Ugh, I don't like Greta Gerwig. I don't like Narnia. And then I hear it's going to be 8 movies long. And I was like, yuck.
9.
Yuck. 9. It's like, we already saw
There's
this.
not that many books.
We already know this story. We heard it 1,000 times. And also, I don't like it. And I don't care about it. And I think it's dumb. And I think it's yesterday's paper. I don't care about Chronicles of Narnia. I'm not a fucking, like, British schoolboy in World War I. So then number 2.
This is like relationship ending slander right now. I'm a huge Narnia fan. I love Narnia. Grew up on Narnia. I think it's superior to Tolkien. I think it's the real deal. It's like it's sure it's all like biblical analogies, but they're so weird and impossible to follow that it doesn't matter. I really dig Narnia, but I also give this, Joe, a if I can steal your
Sure.
slogan, I give it a freak off as well, because look, we all love the pop girls. The pop girls are great. They're
We do.
fun. They can't do everything.
I know Dua Lipa
They
was
can't do
Dua Lipa
everything.
was a mermaid for one like second in Barbie, and that was already too much for me. A whole Charlie XX. You know what though? Like, here's the one thing I will say though. Like, I see it. I see why Charlie XCX looks like that character. Like, I get it. I don't think it's like bad casting. I just think I'm over it.
And I know I think I know what Gerwig is trying to do too. I'm sure when she was spitballing this idea with Noah Baumbach over dinner, I feel like in her movie brain this is like David Bowie in Labyrinth, right? It's like,
It is.
I'm doing a fantasy thing. If I get sort of an interesting eccentric pop star for the lead, that'll be cool. That's worked before. That's like a sort of 80s vibe thing to do. I love throwing pop stars into movies, stunt casting them.
Is
this one
my
just
freak off
feels-
really
I
isn't.
don't
It's just
know.
like, I know it's like Greta is so desperate to be cool. It's like, Greta, you're already as cool
You're
as can
so
be.
cool.
You're a billionaire
You're
director.
so cool.
I just feel like she's still trying to be cool. She's given Honora the Palme d'Or. She's casting Charlie XCX as like it's like, you don't worry about the kids, Greta.
Yeah.
You are a god now. Like, just go ascend and just be like, why do we have to? Why are you
know what this
appealing
is?
to the fucking kids?
This is the like dancing in the VIP tent at the Eras tour of casting is what
Yeah.
this is. There is a
It's
like
bad.
there is a like trying to appeal to the kids too much vibe
worry
about
about it.
this. I don't like it.
Don't
I
worry
don't
about
like
it.
either. You cast who you want to cast, Greta.
Yeah.
Who would that be? Who would that
Kate
be?
McKinnon.
Yeah, get Melissa Leo in there as the White
Yeah.
Witch. I don't know who you would cast, but it's not.
Yeah,
I don't know, right? It's not happening.
Next.
It's not happening. Next, Joe. Last but not least. Nobody asked him, but Osgood Perkins says he'll never do a Bond movie because fuck Jeff Bezos.
Okay.
There's sorry.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
okay.
I just saw this headline where Osgood Perkins came out and said, I will never do a Bond movie now that Amazon owns full control of
Yeah.
it. Fuck Jeff
Yeah.
Bezos.
Yeah. So are you asking me if I think that's a freak off or a
I
freak
guess
yeah?
so, yeah.
I'm thinking that's a freak off to Osgood Perkins.
Why do we hear so much from Osgood
Don't
Perkins?
worry, honey. They weren't gonna ask you.
Yeah, they're not asking you to do a Bond
And
movie.
guess what? If they did, I'd say, oh no, that sucks.
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
He's gonna ruin it. Guess who? Not Jeff Bezos. You, Osgood. You would have ruined it.
Osgood, why are you weighing in on everything?
Shut the fuck up.
Why are we hearing
Shut
from
the
Osgood
fuck
Perkins
up.
so much?
Well, I guess he was doing press for the monkey.
This is past that. The monkey's been out for weeks. Every time I go on social, I see a video of Osgood like reclining in a chair, telling me the most obvious thing about like the way movies are made, as though I've never been to a movie before.
I would never work for Amazon. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock.
When you're making a movie,
You're gonna work for Amazon, Osgood.
when you're making a movie like The Monkey, it's very important that you go all the way with the scares. You can't stop at 6. You have to go to 10 with all the scares. This is every time I go to Instagram, it's Osgood just pontificating about something so obvious
annoying.
my ears bleed.
Fuck Jeff Bezos. Like, look at your shoes. Look at your car. Look at your phone. Look at your house. Who do you think makes these things? Fucking like some nice local fucking mom and pop store. You piece of shit.
You know who? You know.
Fuck you.
I actually wanna-
Lots of people work at Amazon. Lots of people want to direct a James Bond movie, and they're going to, and they're not going to be criminals because Amazon's involved. I wish Amazon didn't change the world for the worse, which they absolutely did. And I wish the world wasn't structured that the way that it 100% is. But you are not a bad person if you take a job for an Amazon company.
You are not
You're
a bad
not.
person if you take a job to
crazy.
do a movie that you want to make.
Yes.
Yes.
If Amazon gives you the money, like
Yeah.
Amazon buys your movie and nobody else wanted to buy it, but you sell it to Amazon, now it's on Amazon Prime. Yep, they're one of the 5 major studios now. It's not my favorite situation.
And also, you know,
it's not a crime.
You know what?
It's
You
not a
know what
crime.
would happen if they called Osgood Perkins' agent and offered him the James Bond movie? Guy would jump at it in a second.
I would.
Guy would jump at it in a second.
You don't want to work for the Amazon James Bond? What if? Why wouldn't you want that?
This is just like
Because Jeff Bezos sucks. Like Jeff Bezos sucks. Like I hope you don't want milk and toilet paper delivered to your house. Like it's just like people are so like they love to stand up for things that
when there's no stakes.
when there's no
when
when
they stand to lose
there's nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Nobody was asking you to
Don't worry
make a
about it.
James Bond movie to begin with. But you
Don't worry
got
about
to
it.
score a little fuck Jeff Bezos
a little
point on
so
social
why?
media.
So the dumbest fucking 20-year-olds think that you're hip for 4
I would
seconds
actually like to
before they figure out you're a poser.
I'd like
Fuck
to
you.
apologize to Greta Gerwig for saying that she was trying to appeal to the
Yeah,
kids.
never mind. I take it back.
That's what this
Never
is what that
mind.
looks like.
Sorry.
This is what that looks
Greta,
like.
you're obviously, you're amazing. I just don't like Chronicles of Narnia, and I don't like.
I
it's
love
not
it.
Like, it's
I
not like
love
I don't
it. I
like
believe
Little
in you,
Women.
Greta. I believe in you.
Little Women's just not my thing. Chronicles of Narnia is just not my thing. Like Barbie's not my thing. You just don't do my things, and I think you're really talented. I just I don't love your whole things, but I love that. I don't let me stand in your way, Greta Gerwig.
Oh, she's not.
You do you.
Yeah, she's
no
not.
good.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
good,
yeah,
good,
yeah.
good.
That was freak yeah or freak off, and we even had a couple freak ons in there.
Yeah, it was
freak
a good
ons.
segment.
Okay, now let's talk about this week's new movies, Joe. This week on Movies Baby, we saw Bong Joon-ho's follow-up to Parasite, Mickey 17, starring Robert Pattinson, and we saw Paul W.S. Anderson's latest with Mila Jovovich and Dave Bautista in The Lost Lands. We're going to tell you what we thought of those movies, but first, a quick spoilers disclaimer for all you plot heads out there, and we love our plot heads, at least I do. We're going to review this week's new releases, and while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it's impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we are reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled, not even in the least, we recommend caution. Put us on mute, fast forward, whatever you need to do. We put the time codes down in the description so you know when we're talking about what, when. That's your disclaimer, so you can't say we spoiled anything for you. Are you happy now? I hope so. Let's talk about Mickey 17. This is Bong Joon-ho's first movie since Parasite. It's based on the 2022 novel Mickey 7 by Edward Ashton, and the film stars, like I said, Robert Pattinson, also Naomi Ackie, Stephen Yeun, Toni Collette, Mark Ruffalo. It is set in the future, and the plot follows a man who joins a space colony as a quote-unquote expendable. Not those Expendables, This is a different kind of expendable. A disposable worker who gets cloned every time he dies for research purposes. Joe, what'd you think of Bong Joon-ho's new movie, Mickey 17?
Brett, a new Bong was in the theater, and I was hyped. We love Bong. Yes, of course, we love Parasite, but Bong's made other great movies, too. We love Snowpiercer. We love Memories of a Murder. We love Bong. So I was very excited for Mickey 17. His English language movies versus Korean movies certainly has a small little line down them. Just to throw it out there, just to say it, he makes all of his Korean movies seem to be as great as movies can be. He's made 2 English features, Snowpiercer and Okja, before he worked with Warner Brothers on this and Robert Pattinson on Mickey 17. And those movies, one with Netflix, Okja, they were good, but they weren't as beloved as some of the other ones. So here we have his 3rd English language feature. He's doing sci-fi again, which he's done admirably in Snowpiercer. The Host has elements of sci-fi. He is with some aliens here, some creatures, a la Okja, a la The Host.
Mm-hmm.
He's good at that. He has that comic edge that Bong does. Specifically, it might remind you of the tone of Okja. Again, it has that sort of like heightened silliness to pair with sort of the sci-fi messaging, because Bong's always trying to give you some medicine. And one thing about Bong throughout the whole filmography, which we watched this week, is Bong is a guy who's going to give you your medicine about the ills of modern society, the ills of capitalism, the ills of, labor, and
Economic inequality,
and poverty, and unfairness, and he's always going to do that. And sometimes he does it with like incredible depth and richness, and sometimes he does it to like astounding results, like in Parasite, where you're sort of shocked, sort of a shock to the system, like a piece of art that can still kind of shock the system. But unfortunately, Mickey 17 doesn't have that depth. That's going to be like sort of where I start my review. Mickey 17 has the Bong interests. It has some aliens. It has some big-time, obvious anti-capitalism stuff. It has some, unfortunately, too obvious Trump parallels. Mark Ruffalo's character is like a Trump, and his fans wear red hats. So it's a little broad and it's a little undeep. Sometimes there's some joy in that. For the first half of the film, seeing a foreign auteur do sort of like a broad, backhanded slap to America, he does it with a sort of like a smile on his face and has elements of sort of a bounciness or a fun. But as it plods along, it just sort of reveals itself to be ultimately a little too broad to be interesting. Mickey 17 explores a lot of very interesting themes, Brett, though. I love the Pattinson getting printed out. I love his love interest in this movie. She was excellent, Naomi Ackie. I thought she was excellent. There's in Act 2, spoiler alert, there are 2 Mickeys that are printed out, and all of a sudden there's 2 Mickeys and 2 love interests. And for 1 minute there, I thought we were going to have a great last hour of the movie exploring all of the fun that you can have with 2 people having sex with one person that's 2 bodies.
Because also you get like the other Mickey is like a bad boy, so you get this sort of like sort of sweet, awkward Robert Pattinson doing a Steve-O voice, and then you get this like badass, sort of angry Robert Pattinson. So there was so much. You felt this potential for a lot of interplay there. But
so I was so excited for all of these themes have been established, and I was really into it for the first 2/3 of the movie. In Act 3, Bong takes a detour, and he decides to explore things that I wasn't interested in, and he goes down a path for some sort of big Hollywood IMAX special effect ridden climax with snow and aliens and a bomb, and I would have been just happy staying on that ship, staying in that bedroom, letting Pattinson play opposite Pattinson, and finding the other interesting themes about Mickey's life just in the film. That being said, Bong goes and does a big snow alien thing. I will say this, Brett, my favorite thing about the movie was the visual effects. These aliens look incredible. The artists that Bong worked with, and the empowerment that Bong allowed them created. I was watching the movie like, oh, this is what special effects can do nowadays. I was like, oh, wait, never mind. All this technology actually is super useful. Can somebody please let the artists do their thing? Because when they do it, the results are breathtaking. Just because I didn't love the themes of the third act, whatever, doesn't mean I wasn't blown away by how breathtaking the special effects were. But do you know who I blame the most for the failures here. I blame the editor. The editor unpaces this movie. Now, Bong had Final Cut. I looked it up. I said, who's to blame? Am I going to blame Warner Brothers? No, I'm going to blame Bong. Bong, you stood too long in the editing room and you overthought it, and it just pacing-wise, it wasn't satisfactorily told story-wise. The cutting back and forth didn't make sense. Sometimes plot points were dropped wholesale. There was too much if you had Final Cut, then ignore the studio, because it was like you had Final Cut but you took a lot of their notes. So now we are in this like hodgepodge. Release the Warner Brothers cut.
The Warner Brothers cut.
Release the studio cut. I want to see what the execs wanted to put out there. Bong, get out of the way. I want to see what like the middle management, like I want to see them. They took out 20 minutes, and now it's like an hour and 50. I want to see that cut of Mickey 17.
He wants to see Chip Zaslav's cut.
I do.
David Zaslav's fail son's cut.
I need to see the Chip cut because Bong's sensibilities weren't 1,000% bullseye like I'm used to with this guy.
Yeah. I agree with you, Joe. I do think that Mickey 17 ultimately is proof that Bong he's incapable of making a bad movie, because this is a little bit of a spoiler alert for the second half of our show when we're going to rank Bongs, but I thought Mickey 17 was the worst movie he's made, and I thought it was still good. I thought it was still pretty good. Bong, like Joe said, I agree. He uses every cent of that big budget. It's all up there on the screen. The movie looks amazing. It has that sort of just transcendent sci-fi production design they don't really see anymore, and I thought like maybe like besides Guillermo del Toro, Bong is like the only guy between Snowpiercer and this. Bong is one of the only guys that's doing like old school sci-fi world building that you would used to see in movies like Blade Runner, The Matrix, whatever. There's 100 examples, but where you would go to a sci-fi movie and there was just this fully realized,
it's like
executed
George
world.
Miller, Steven Spielberg,
Miller
Bong
too.
Joon-ho.
Like exactly.
Christopher Nolan.
Yes,
he's in that class of director.
Absolutely, where it's just this perfectly realized world. Every detail is perfect. I also love, one of my favorite things about Bong is, like you said, the way he weaves humor into things in these like little nuanced, specific, detailed ways. So I love that, like, as advanced as the technology gets in his sci-fi movies, he always makes sure to like keep the technology kind of bad at the same time, because the thing that sci-fi movies always forget is like, yes, it will get more advanced on the surface, but it's still technology, so it's always going to be breaking. And so I love that in Bong sci-fi movies, the technology is like advanced but still sort of shitty. So like the way that like the human printer sort of like almost goes like a dot matrix printer, the way it sort of is like and then it kind of like fucks up, and like that is so funny. That's what Bong really brings to these worlds. I also love that you're always going to get like someone falling down stairs. You're always going to get like these hilarious pratfalls in the middle of like big action sequences. I just love the way Bong throws in these little comedic details. I do have to say though, Joe, I got to call somebody out. And this is sort of an intervention. This is like a Willem Dafoe style intervention here, because Mark Ruffalo, I love Mark Ruffalo. He's a great actor. You don't need to tell me that. I think he's great in Spotlight. The Kids Are All Right. You Can Count on Me. Zodiac, Eternal Sunshine. The list goes on and on. One of our great actors. I do think between Poor Things and Mickey 17, I think Ruffalo is getting a little hacky, and it bothers me, Brett? And it worries me, and somebody needs to say something, and apparently the people around him are not telling him this, so I'm going to tell you, Marky baby, you're getting a little hacky, and I'm going to tell you specifically why you're getting a little hacky, because you're leaning into these like high satirical cartoon character roles between Poor Things and between your sort of on again off again Trump impression in this movie. You're leaning into these like high satire cartoon characters, and I love you, but you're not funny like that. You can be like, I've seen Ruffalo be funny in movies, but he's funny because he's giving a committed Mark Ruffalo performance, and the movie makes him funny in the way it structures the performance. But Mark is like having to bring too much of the comedy to these last two performances, and you're just not funny like that.
No.
You're a sweet feckless liberal. I don't know what to
I
say.
know.
You're not funny like that. And that's fine. Not everyone has to do everything. But this is not your strong suit. I don't want to see Mark Ruffalo continue to do these hard satirical
Stop.
caricatures. It is just not working. Like I liked this Mark Ruffalo character for about 2 minutes. And then the bit wore off, and then it was so tired, and it was
brutal.
Mark flailing for a Trump impression
Brutal.
for 2 hours. Tony Collette
So
is
funny.
great and hilarious.
Tony Collette cracked me
Yes.
up. Sorry, haters.
Yes, Tony
But
Collette's amazing. People hate Tony Collette.
Oh, I don't know. In some reviews I was reading, she got lumped in with the Ruffalo.
No.
criticism, and
She
I
is
disagree.
doing her best to save the Ruffalo performance
Yep.
by giving him something to work off of that's
Yeah.
human and relatable in a performance.
And she's really funny.
And he thinks he is just lampooning Trump, and he's taking
It's
down
so
the big man.
brutal.
They won the popular vote, dumbass.
It's so brutal.
There's not
that-
what do you think you're doing with this big this is nothing. Nothing's happening.
I think this speaks to Bong not being from here. It's like if he was from here and was ingesting the American media every single day, he would kind of know that no, you can't cast Ruffalo as the Trump because it's too on the nose. Because in South, I know you know that he's an anti-Trump figure, but to us here in America, that's cringe kind of that he would then do this Trump thing. There's this little tiny lost in translation cultural flutters where it's that's just not quite it, Bong.
There's some lost in translation cringe where the satire is not as sharp as it could be,
Right.
and it's a little too on the nose for what we're used to from Bong. And
Yeah.
Ruffalo is the centerpiece of
I hate
that. And
Ruffalo.
honestly, I blame Ruffalo.
I hate Ruffalo.
blame Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo's been good in one movie, Foxcatcher. That's it.
Wrong. He's a great actor with a great portfolio of work. All the movies I named, fucking Spotlight. He's amazing. You can count on me. The first thing I remember seeing him in, he's fantastic. Zodiac. You don't like him in Zodiac?
Of course I do.
He does. Joe likes.
Of course
Zodiac.
I do.
He's just really mad about this career turn,
Yeah.
and I'm mad about it too because it's not who you are, Ruffalo.
I hated you in Poor Things, and I hated you in fucking
Yes,
Mixed Sympathy.
this is a
Stop
bad
ruining
back-to-back.
movies.
And we're getting ahead of this. Okay, there's still time to turn the tide around here.
You're being
I
nice.
think I know what you're doing. You're flailing around post Avengers. You're trying to find something
Post Bernie.
new to just keep the old flame burning inside of you. I don't know what's happening, but find a role that you're meant for next time. Let's talk about In the Lost Lands. This is Paul W.S. Anderson's new movie. Paul W.S. Anderson, of course, the one of our last B-movie directors, at least B-movie directors working in wide release.
That gets theatrical
That gets
distribution.
theatrical distribution. He made the original Mortal Kombat, Event Horizon, and then the entire Resident Evil franchise with his wife and now frequent collaborator Mila Jovovich, who is also in The Lost Lands alongside Dave Bautista. And this is based on a George R.R. Martin short story. It is about a witch and a hunter who journey into a dangerous landscape to find an artifact for a queen. Joe, what'd you think of Paul W.S. Anderson's In the Lost Lands?
In the Lost Lands is a mashup, I swear to God, of Mad Max, Fury Road, Furiosa, plus Lord of the Rings, plus Game of Thrones. It's all of those things. It has the Daenerys stuff. It has all the Lord of the Rings beats of the walking to kill the ring. It has the whole thing just looks like, Gasland and Furiosa, classic B-movie stuff. He's taking all the popular things that everybody enjoyed that made $1 trillion, and now he's going to make a mashup B-movie thing where if you were on drugs and you were in a nursing home and you could barely distinguish who was coming in and out of your room, you might think for a second that you were watching Furiosa, but actually it's just In the Lost Lands. So that's sort of the vibe. The aesthetic is still his garish high beam movie. His movies all he just points car lights in your face and then the actors stand in front of them. That's all of his movies. And the graphics are so crunchy, they're ancient graphics from a computer that they don't make anymore, and everything looks like steampunk 2004 music video kind of bullshit. I kind of liked it.
You liked it.
I kind of liked it.
I knew you liked it. I felt an undercurrent to that
I
whole
like it. I like it. Mila Jovovich plays someone called the Bad Witch, the White Witch. What's her name? Evil Witch.
Yeah, it's
The Gray Witch.
everything is a dark fantasy like placeholder, and then they forgot to go in and write the specific name for things.
She plays the Grey
there
Witch.
There she is.
And then Dave Bautista plays like the Hunter.
Yeah.
And and then there's like a king, and they have to go on a journey to find a werewolf. And I really, this movie's not very good, but I really kind of had a good time watching it. You're going to hear from a lot of people. Brett is going to speak for many of them that are out on this movie. People that went to go see a P.W.S. Anderson film, and then they saw In the Lost Lands, which was giving me P.W.S. Anderson, but then they come out and say, that's not what I wanted. So I'm going to actually turn the tables over to you, Brett, now and ask you, what did you think of this film? Because you love a P.W.S. Anderson. You're a champion of the B film.
I do.
But you came out of the movie theater not quite as buoyant as I
always
did.
root for Paul W.S. Anderson. He, to me, he's Roger Corman for people who grew up listening to Korn and nu metal. He is one of our last true B-movie directors working in wide release, like we said. But it's as simple as this, Joe. This just isn't a good movie, even by his standards.
Well, why not?
It ain't it. The whole thing is ugly. He has been an important, there's been an important distinction between a Paul W.S. Anderson movie and an Uwe Boll movie. They are both two sort of B-movie, straight-to-video directors, whatever you want to call them. But Uwe Boll is always this sort of cynical troll who's making movies because of a tax loophole that he can exploit, and the movies are always sort of trollish and sort of intentionally bad. Paul W.S. Anderson is working right at that Roger Corman level of B-movies, but they look as about as good as you can make a movie look on the budget that they have, and they're just fun and exciting and interesting. This movie ultimately just looks so bad, and all of the specifics are so sort of generic. And look, I love someone trying to make a dark fantasy movie in 2025. I love someone doing this sword and sorcery steampunk thing in 2025. I love everything this movie is trying to do. I just hate the execution of it. It's ugly and stupid by Paul W.S. Anderson standards. You can do better than this, baby. Get him next time, though. I'm rooting for you. Let's really quickly, Joe, because we're on the clock here. Let's do our reviews, because we didn't do our ratings. We didn't do ratings for these two movies. And Mickey 17, the rating is important because you have this on your fantasy.
That's exactly right.
You drafted this on your fantasy
so it does
team.
matter.
Yes. And the fantasy draft, of course, is where Joe and I pick 5 movies plus an alternate from 2025 that we think we're both really going to like, and whoever gets the highest ratings collectively at the end wins. I'm going to give Mickey 17 3 stars because I thought it was a good movie.
Mickey 17 was good. I'm going to give it 3 stars as well.
Good. So that's a 6 for you for Mickey 17.
That's a 6.
Kind of a lukewarm start, considering how
not what
good,
I wanted.
Okay.
Not what I wanted at all.
I like the risk.
Unhappy with that.
I like the risk. I will always take a risk on Bong.
Why not?
Yes. Now, what about In the Lost Lands, Joe? What do you give In the Lost Lands?
In the Lost Lands was all right. I'm giving it 2.5 stars.
2.5 stars.
I like this movie. It isn't good. That's why it's not 3. But it has more fun. And it was a better watch than y'all are making it out to be. I stan it. I'm giving it 2.5 stars.
I love that for you. This also puts you in the running to get in the VOD release trailer, because I think you're the only person who gave it a good review. So if you're listening out there, Paul W.S. Anderson, or
I liked
the
it.
team,
I don't understand why
this is your only good
I
review.
don't understand why people if you're a fan of P.W.S. Anderson, I'm pretty sure you're going to like In the Lost Lands, and I'm confused as to why you
I disagree. If you like Paul W.S. Anderson, this is below his standards.
I'm
this is not a
I'm
good
interested
Paul
in that.
Anderson
I thought this
movie.
was fun. It's his horizon.
I give it I'm not going to go too low, though. I'm going to give it 2 stars. And those 2 stars are merely for – he gets 2 stars for attempting to do dark fantasy in 2025. And beyond that, nothing was good about the movie. But it does get 2 stars just for the attempt. Now, next week, we got 2 other big movies coming down the pipeline that we're going to be watching. Black Bag. This is Steven Soderbergh and David Koepp's second movie of the year, and it's not even April.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. It's a spy thing with Michael Fassbender and Kate Blanchett.
It's going to be good.
Come on,
It's going to be the best movie of the year.
Come on.
So
Black
far.
Bag. And we'll be reviewing what a lot of people are saying might be the worst movie of the year so far, The Electric State, directed by the Russo brothers for Netflix. It's a sci-fi comedy that cost $320 million, starring Chris Pratt and Millie Bobby Brown. Joe, we have to watch this. But you can do it from the comfort of your home, which will be nice.
Which we famously don't like to do. We famously don't like to watch Netflix movies at home.
Well, Joe, I have better news for you because in a minute here, in the second half of our show, we're going to be ranking Bong Joon-ho's movies. And Carson, let's go ahead and skip the transition video because we're on the clock this week. We got to kind of get going with this. So we're just going to go right into it, right into the Bong Joon-ho rankings in just a second. This will only be for Patreon subscribers, though, okay? Only for Patreon subscribers. If you're on the YouTube, your feed will drop out. And then if you jump over to patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys, you can hang out and keep the party going and find out how we rank the Bong Joon-ho movies. Worst, quote-unquote, worst to best. Really, it's good to masterpiece. We'll be doing that in just a second here. We'll give Carson a chance to change the feeds, and then we'll be back with you in just a second.
Bye. Come in. Bye.